So let's take a look at more in depth into the enhanced survey design. So this is a national survey that has been going on for a while. It started in the early 60s. And initially, it was more of a periodic type of a survey. We had the Enhanced 1, 2, and 3. Enhanced 3, for example, lasted from 1988 to 1994. That means it took that long to collect all the data. By the time you actually had the data available to you, some of the 1988 data, for example, was already too old. So it takes about 2 years, 1 to 2 years to actually finally clean all the data and then post it and release it to the public. So that means that if you collected data between 1988 to 1994, you probably received those data, not earlier than 1996. And by that time, 1988 is probably not as important, especially when you're looking at prevalence of a condition. Maybe if you're looking at risk factors, maybe a little different because they're probably not going to change much, although they do in some case. So what happened then, beginning in 1999, the enhanced became a continuous survey. That means it was done more on an ongoing basis rather than the periodic survey it had been in the past. So the target population is the civilian non-institutionalized US population. So if you're a civilian, you're not in an institution, then you could be called to participate in the study. And there are different target population subgroups for different topics. So there are certain questions that are being asked in certain subgroups and not others. So you need to keep an eye on that. There will be data collected on demographics, that is just about everybody. Then there will be dietary data. Examination may vary. Laboratory also may vary. Questionnaire also may vary. And there will also additional limited access data that you would need to request, and actually you need to go to specialized centers to be able to analyze them. So again, the enhanced data are not collected using a simple random sample, but it is a complex, stratified, multi-stage probability sampling design with oversampling of certain populations. And the oversampling, which ones are the groups that are oversampled? It could be low-income individuals, those that are very old, very young, certain race, racial and ethnic groups that if you just took a sample, you probably wouldn't get enough of these groups to do like a nice analysis. So all of these concepts are really similar across different surveys, and you will see those, that once you learn one survey well, the other surveys will be very similar. And so the design affects the analysis. And because in ENHANCE, we use a stratified, multi-stage clustered design with oversampling, and we also will have some no-response, there will be 3 design variables that you will need to use every time you analyze enhanced data. These will be the strata, cluster, and weight. These 3 statements will be included each time, and then for each of these, you will define which variable represents the strata, cluster, and weight. And we will see that later on. So to take a look at the multi-stage cluster sampling, we can think of the population and then clusters within. And that's exactly how the ENHANCE and also many other national surveys are done because it's just practical. Unfortunately, you actually lose some power when you do this. So how is the sampling done? So we know we have the target population, that's the non-institutionalized US civilians. First, counties will be selected. So we decide, okay, well, which counties we want. Those are the primary sampling units. Within a county, we select blocks. which could be approximately 24 blocks or segments per primary sampling unit. And then within a block, there will be certain households that will be selected and some will not. That's all done at the table way before any data collection begins. And lastly, within a household, you may have multiple individuals. And again, that would be another selection. So you can see that it's multi-stage clustered because these are clusters, a county, then a segment, household. Now, individuals within a household are correlated. Households within a block are more similar than households in another block. And so these are all clusters. So it's a multi-stage cluster design. Some will be selected for the interview, those in blue, and then others will not be selected. And so if you're not selected, you will not participate. You can't just go next door and select the other household because that was the household that was selected by the survey. So they will come to you many times to try and have you participate if your household is selected. And here you can see a graphical representation where we start with some counties in stage 1, then look at segments in stage 2, households in stage 3, and finally certain individuals within the household in stage 4. So in stage 1, these are primary sampling units, and these will be critical because these are the ones that actually, because of what we can do is simply assume look at the primary sampling unit will be the one that will be driving the analysis. We will not actually need to worry so much about the other stages. So this will be the most critical stage. These will be single counties or group of contiguous counties. This will be selected with a probability proportional to size. And this is because we want to ensure that we have enough representation of the different counties. Particularly if you have a large county, you might want more individuals from that county. In stage 2, we're going to look at city blocks typically, and again, so not everybody in the county will be selected, but within each county we will select specific city blocks that will be eligible to participate. Then within each city block, there will be specific households that will be selected. Lastly, in stage 4, we will select specific individuals from each household. And these are based on designated age, sex, race, ethnicity, subdomains. So there are a number of features used in the in national surveys, including the ENHANES. So we assign a sample weight to each person. The sample weight is essentially how many people you represent if you are that person. So if we have a male, middle-aged, Asian male, then we would say that that person represents so many other people similar to that person. And that would be the weight that that person has. It's like, we're not going to collect data from everybody, but we will collect data on individuals that represent other individuals similar to them. In addition, ENHANES uses weights to adjust for not only to account for the probability of selection, but also no response. And so your weight may be adjusted if when there is no response by individuals that do not participate in the study. These weights are different depending on the person, when the person participated. So we start with the US population up here. Then we decide, okay, we want to select a certain sample that will be then, we can reconstruct through statistical approaches and we can then generalize back to the US population. So a number of individuals will be screened and then interviewed and examined. However, not everybody who is interviewed will also be examined. That means there will be more individuals interviewed than there will be examined. For that reason, we need to decide which group the individual is part of. So if we only collect variables in our study that were only collected during the interview phase, then we use the interview weight. If we collect variables that include examination variables, for example, if we measure height and weight during the examination, then we do need to use the examination weights. So if we use both variables that collected during the interview or the exam, then we will use examination weights. So the only time we would use interview weights is if we only using variables collected during the interview. For the most part, you will see that you will end up using examination weights. So this is important at the time of analysis because you will need to define the strata, the clusters, and the weights. And when you have, you will need to choose between the interview and the examination weight. And so that will be important when you do the analysis.